Welcome back, I'm Tedward, and today I want to talk about how to make friends in the car community. How do you get in on these drives, these car shows, track days, all the things that allow us to express our passion for the automobile. And I know there's a lot of folks who are new to the community. They jump in, maybe they've just bought a car or they want to buy a car that kind of like locks them into the community and expands their horizons of who they're going to hang out with and what they're going to be doing on the weekends, but then kind of end up stumped because they don't really know how to find those people, or they find the wrong people and it kind of gets them in trouble later on. So let's jump into the E92 M3 and I'll tell you about how I kind of came into my group of car friends over the years and how you might find your group of car friends in modern day. Start up the E92. Excellent. We'll kill this display so it's not flickering in your face the whole time. That's really annoying. The barrier of entry can seem pretty scary when you jump into the car community or you want to become part of the car community, because like, where do you find these people? And you don't need to have a bunch of hooligan friends. You can actually have some pretty tame people in your life who enjoy motorsports. So for me, in high school, there was nobody. There was really nobody that enjoyed cars the way I enjoyed cars. In fact, I made one friend when I was working at Puma in a retail store. There was one friend who did have an interest in cars. He had a Saturn Ion Redline, a supercharged Saturn Ion Redline. And to me, well, that was just about the fastest car I had access to at the time because I was driving a Mark III Golf. And there was very little internet presence when I was in high school. I mean, we didn't even have YouTube in the way we have it today. In fact, we had streetfire.net, and that was the only way you were gonna figure out like which exhaust you were gonna put on your car, because you'd go and try to figure out like, oh, what's the Eisenman sound like? And there'd be like a 4-second clip with the worst audio you've ever heard. And you'd make like a $4,000 or $5,000 decision based on that kind of clip. And it wasn't until college, when I was at an engineering school at WPI, where there was a motorsports club, and that just made life so much easier, because now you had people who were like literally dedicated to meeting up about cars. And the beauty of that was the diversity of the car cultures within that group. Car culture is very tribal. You're a BMW guy, you're a Mercedes guy, you're a Subaru guy. It's really easy to get trapped into a tribe. And it's fine if you enjoy that car and if you have good friends within those groups. I'm not saying don't join those tribes, but what you don't want to do is lock yourself into a position where you now don't have access or exposure to other parts of motorsport that you might actually really enjoy. Like, I try to drive as much as I can. So I'll drive the BMWs, but I also like driving a G-Wagon. I also like going off-roading. I like driving like Caterhams, but then I also like driving Bentleys. You know, I want to drive all the things. I'm not going to just kind of poo-poo the other guy because they're not in my tribe. At that point, you're basically a 14-year-old girl in the early 2000s with an NSYNC shirt, and it signifies that you hate the Backstreet Boys. Like, who cares? They're both terrible. So how do you find the right group of people? How do you go about finding who you need to be with? And how do you identify the people that you probably shouldn't be with? Step one is to initiate with like a diverse group of people. I think Cars and Coffee has changed the game over the past few years, because a Cars and Coffee is not a dedicated car meet for a specific tribe. It's everybody and anybody, all age groups, all cars, all classes. You're gonna have like lowered Skylines and Subarus next to Lamborghinis, Ferraris, vintage Jags. I mean, it's literally everything. Every time you go to a show or a meet, it's a networking opportunity to meet new people and figure out what's next. Because I think the most difficult part of trying to break into the scene is figuring out where to even go in the first place. So if you have a local Cars and Coffee, that's usually the easiest thing to find, because so many people go, it's not hidden. Look at these I mean, that's not even a pothole, that is a crater. Look at the color on this bolt. Chevy did a good job with that. That's very respectable, honestly. So now, because you were a nice, friendly, open-minded, respectable person, you might have made a couple friends. And those couple friends might have told you about the underground meet going on later tonight. We've got this parking garage. We're gonna do like a parking garage takeover. Awesome. Now you've got somewhere to go, and you've probably got someone that you can meet up with when you're there, because that dude is gonna, or girl, that person is gonna be there at the same time. So you go to the next meet, and anytime you follow someone to a second location, this is where you gotta start using your instincts, because the Cars and Coffee was probably very chill. No one's out there revving their engines, doing burnouts, crashing their car. But at the second meet, at the tribal meet, this is where things could get a little dicey. And this is where you want to use your judgment, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to fall in with an irresponsible crowd that's going to get you in trouble. That's going to get your car impounded. That's going to put you on a lot of people's shit list of just being a jerk. You know, you want to be an upstanding member of the automotive community, because we would like to continue doing this. And every time someone wrecks a car into a crowd of people or into a bunch of parked cars that weren't even involved in the meet, you make us look really bad. And that's when legislators are going to start making laws against loud exhausts and lowered cars and all this stuff, because you just put us on the radar in a negative way. And we don't want to be on the radar. We want to be under the radar. We want to have fun, but we don't want to be regulated, okay? We don't want to be regulated. So if you are someone who's forcing us to be regulated with your poor decisions, not a big fan of you. So this is why when you go to these types of meets, you want to look around and see who's there. Because if you've got the people who are doing like street takeovers and doing big smoky burnouts, shutting down highways and just causing mayhem that's like completely unnecessary and stupid, move on. You don't need to be a Karen and tell them, hey, kids, don't do that. But like, maybe this isn't for you. However, there's a fine line here, because our whole community is sort of built around this like loose gentleman's agreement of rule breaking or bending rules. Because sure, we're going to go out to the fun roads and drive a little fast. I mean, look at California car culture. You go out to the Malibu Canyons or Angeles Forest, and that whole scene is built around enjoying those roads at speed. I mean, you don't go beyond your limits, but it's certainly not a 30-mile-an-hour drive with the Porsche Club up to Newcomb's Ranch. Sweet Miata! Good racing stripes. We like an NB with racing stripes. That's fun. And that's the other thing. You're allowed to like things. You're allowed to think things are fun, even if they're not cars you would buy. Like, I go to car shows all the time, and I see cars, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I totally remember this. This was so much fun when I was a kid. Or something that's just so ridiculous that it makes you smile. Look at these craters. Holy cow! I'm gonna lose a wheel on this drive. Maybe this is gonna be an expensive video. But let's say you just want to drive, and I apologize for this Band-Aid. I went on a go-karting tournament thing with my friends, my car friends, and I got some nasty blisters. You don't want to see what's under this Band-Aid. So while I avoid all the potholes, some of you probably like don't even want to be at a car show. Like, car shows, not for you. You're a driver, man. You just want to drive. You don't really care about standing in a parking lot talking to people, which, by the way, is pretty much where I met all my friends, so don't neg it too much. Let's get on this highway here. Catching up to our Camry friend very quickly. Okay, so we want responsible distance too. You know, these are the people that you want to hang out with. People that don't put other people in danger for the entertainment of themselves or showing off to their friends. So let's say you don't want to go to a car show. Let's say you just want to drive your car. Maybe you're not really prepared to be at a track day yet. Maybe that's a little expensive. Maybe it's just not for you yet. Go to an autocross. Autocrosses are everywhere. You will always be able to find a local autocross, usually run by a tribe, right? A BMW CCA, a Corvette car club, something like that. And the reality is, even if it is a BMW CCA event, there's gonna be other cars. It's probably not just like locked in to BMWs, or a Porsche event like might have a lot of other cars involved. So don't be too put off by that. You know, it's okay to go to these events even though you might not have the car that the event is named for. And if it's your first autocross, it can be really intimidating because you're driving in front of people, right? You are going to be performing. Your skills are going to be on display, for better or worse, at an autocross, because everybody's watching. They're all standing in on the track at their cone stations, doing their thing, working the corners, and you're there. You're going to be driving in front of these people, which is fine, because what you can do is you can be humble and you can go for a ride along with somebody, have an instructor with you when you drive, learn to drive your car. No one is going to shit on you for wanting to learn to drive your car. They will shit on you for not accepting advice, not accepting instruction, being arrogant, and then spinning your car and having no car control and understeering into all the cones where all the cone workers have to go out and fix them and be like, dude, I offered this guy a ride along and he would have really benefited from it. So be open-minded, be humble. You know, it's cool to build yourself up. No one's going to make fun of your driving if you're open to learning how to drive. So now we've talked about car shows, we've talked about driving events like autocross or track days, where it's very, in autocross, the price of entry, you're paying like $30 to $50. You've got a day of standing around talking to people. Like, you're gonna make a friend unless you're just a total jerk. But the third and likely most risky way to get into the car scene is going on cruises, car cruises. And I say this is risky because it's got the highest stakes for incident, okay? And this is where you really want to use your instincts to understand, like, am I with the right people? Do I trust these people? Should I be driving like this? Because like I said, we're a culture of rule benders, okay? But that doesn't mean we're monsters. I'm driving through a populated area right now. I'm gonna do the speed limit. There's absolutely no reason for me to be speeding here because the risk reward is just not worth it. A kid runs out, a school bus is ahead, someone's walking their dog on the street, and I come around the corner at 80 miles an hour. That's no good. And when you go on these types of cruises where maybe you're like running up to the mountains with a group of people with similar cars or whatever, a lot of times you're going to be going through sections of road. Look at these craters. Sections of road that are populated. You're not just out in desolate areas. And what you don't want to do is you don't want to be a part of a group that is just tearing through neighborhoods like jerks. And I've done this. I have done this. I'm not proud of it. I've been a part of it. You want to find people with good etiquette and with sane morals on the road. We don't want to be crossing double yellows. That's a really good indicator that maybe you're with a group that you shouldn't be with. You know, they're out crossing yellows on blind corners. The risk reward on that is so not worth it. That's when you're like, all right, moving on, or maybe that's not my friend. Maybe that's not somebody I want to associate too much with, because if that person goes head on in front of you with a civilian, you know, someone who's not in on the drive, oh man, you don't want to kill somebody. You just don't want to be in that position. But alternatively, you might find people who are just a joy to drive with. You run up to the mountains with your buddies, you have a great session on some safe roads, you enjoy your car, you get all the sights and sounds, you pull over a couple times just to high five and enjoy the scenery, you go for dinner, you have a beer after it's all over, thank you for waiting, that's really appreciated, good driving etiquette, and now you've got people that you've shared an experience with. And just like any group of friends, man, this is not where I thought I was going. I thought I was going somewhere a little more scenic. I apologize for this. All right, this is better scenery. So now that you've gone on some sort of event or you've hung out with people, you've had a positive experience, you've shared an experience with somebody, with a group of people on this drive, that's the way you make friends. Like, you have to say yes to stuff. You can't just be an introvert in your house, not going out, saying, I can't make any friends in the car community, because you won't. You cannot just sit online getting mad at people who don't know things that you do know on forums. That's just how you end up with other grumpy, mean friends. Like, you don't want to be that guy. You want to be the guy who's having interesting, positive experiences with real people in the real world, in real cars. Look out, little birds! There's the infamous sound, the sound for everything. When it's 37 degrees, when you're a little low on fuel, when your car has literally exploded. That is the sound you get out of a BMW. It drives you out of your mind. The last thing I'm gonna say is use your car to travel. Travel to places that you otherwise would never have gone. Go to desolate places, go to crazy places, go to beautiful places. And once you've kind of established a group of friends that you trust driving with, that you're not the dangerous people out there being maniacs, but like, hey, maybe a nice open stretch of highway, you open it up a bit and you're not putting anyone else in danger. Or there's a great mountain road that you like that you guys are just driving specifically for that road. I've done that where we go up to Vermont and there's a road that we really like. Me and my friends, we literally just go up to drive this road. Sometimes we'll rent a house at the bottom of that road just so we can wake up in the morning and go drive the road and watch the sunrise. Like, that's the best thing in the world. Remember, your cars are transportation. They are more than just an art piece to stare at in a parking lot with a cup of coffee. And that's your entry point. But once you've got that entry point, use it to go places. Use it to have fun. Use it to build memories and experiences, because for the most part, if you're just standing around talking, it's all talk. Get out there and drive. And don't forget to respect the drive. I really appreciate you guys sticking around and listening to this. Good luck if you're kind of out in the middle of nowhere trying to get your foot in the door with some automotive enthusiast friends. I know it can be difficult if you haven't kind of already established some sort of rapport with people, but be friendly, be humble, and just don't be cocky, rude, or dangerous. You know, if you ever are leaving a car show and you feel that feeling building up in your chest that you're nervous, you turn, oh, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna turn off the traction control. I'm gonna light it up a little bit. Just don't, because the chances that you're gonna impress people are probably much lower than the chances that you're gonna offend people, and no one's gonna really wanna be your friend. So that's all I got. That's the advice. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Winter has been such a drag for snow. We really haven't had enough to enjoy it. I'm hoping we get some nice big heavy downfalls so we can actually have like the roads be snowy and we can go play around on some fun empty back roads rather than having to hunt down like tiny 100-foot segments of pavement in a parking lot. That's just so boring.